Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Breakout Room number 1. I'm pleased to be here as your host again in this room. This room will go about EV. We will allow a few more seconds here during my talks for attendee to join, maybe more. But for the meantime, please, you already have seen the short videos of ITAP events, yeah? And this breakout session is where speaker will address how Industry 4.0 is enabling value creation and competitiveness, focusing on insight from the EV sectors. Audience are welcome to submit questions using the Q&A function here. Leading the discussion here is Mr. Glenn Tan, Group Partners of Tandem X based in Singapore. Glenn has led business turnarounds, transformation, and change management. For over 25 years, he works internationally in both service and manufacturing industry. He held leadership roles over the years at companies such as Nielsen, Flex in China, GE Aircraft Engines in Singapore, and Bionics in Singapore and Malaysia. As for panelists, please welcome again Mr. Grisada Uttamo, the President of Electric Vehicle Association of Thailand. And it is our privilege to have Mr. Volker Blando, Global Head of E-Mobility to Sud. Last but not least, we will have Mr. Solawit Vanish Anukun, Director of Electric Vehicle Program, RDI Management of NASDA. Glenn, I'm happy to hand proceeding to you at this point. Maybe you can begin with sharing some overarching remarks to set the context of discussion.
Sure, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Yupat, and a good afternoon or good morning, depends on whether you're in Singapore or in Thailand or somewhere else. Yeah, so what I wanted to do is to firstly set the context around two things. I think the first is electric vehicle, or some people use a slightly broader term, mobility, electric mobility. And at the same time, there's this whole element of how the Industry 4.0 wave has impacted, and one of it obviously is the industry we're talking about. So I'm going to give Mr. Krishna a little break. I know just now he had a pretty long 15-minute session, right? So I'll let you kind of like chill out a little bit. And I'll start with you, Volker. Given that you have a global perspective of the electric mobility industry or movement as a whole, could you share with us a bit of a mega trend that's going on, whether is it in Europe, which is leading the way, or what you're seeing, having been in the emerging markets of Asia? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here. Yeah, there are a few mega trends, of course. Yeah, the EV itself is a mega trend, of course. We see the electrification of the vehicle, and I think in 10 years from now, we will not talk much anymore about combustion engines. Yeah? This is a transition which is already in the making. From an Industry 4.0, I'm always still lacking a little bit the very tangible assets, how this really impacts. And I was very impressed by an example Tesla gave last year in a symposium in Singapore. They said since they released their highly automated driving system, or highly automated assisted driving system, they could reduce the number of accidents where the Model S is involved by 50%. And this made some change even in my brain, thinking, wow, they reduced the number of accidents where a Tesla is involved by 50% by intelligent solutions. And of course, any Tesla is connected all the time to a big data center. And so it's a swarm learning, which gives you warnings and things. So this is a really tangible result from the benefit of highly automated driving systems. Yeah. A further topic beside the smart factory, the smart production, I will not address so much because this is, I think, quite done. But there are further aspects of this. If you see upcoming regulations towards circular economies, especially for battery systems, but also for the whole car at the end of the day, we need a certain traceability of all the data from the vehicle itself and from the materials involved in the vehicle. So that means at the end of the day, your competitiveness, if you're a supplier, a tier 1 or tier 2, then your competitive is somehow endangered if you are not able to provide to your customer, the OEM usually, this kind of data, including all the raw materials, the handling energies, and so on. So the carbon footprint is one example, which is required. And this all needs to be managed in a global system because the cars are exported. So how to track all these components, which may be produced by you, but will be applied all over the world. This is a very tangible thing, and it's a big necessity as governments will strengthen the regulations on the, let's say, the necessity to provide these data. Yeah, and if you're not capable to provide this data, you are out. And this is very, very important for Thailand, I think, to catch up here with the upcoming regulations, which may impact your car export business.
Thank you for that, Volker. And as you were speaking of it from a global perspective, I want to drill down a little bit down into Thailand. And I know, Sorwet, you are right at the forefront of research and development as far as this area is concerned. Could you share with us a little bit about what, your organization is doing to help to, I want to use the word, further that innovation for your country specifically?
Thank you, Mr. Ken, for your opportunity to my sharing about my organization to help the EV industry in Thailand. May I have to show to sharing my slide for clearly explain about our organization and for clearly what we do and who are we, and what we do for support the Thai industry for EV industry. Sorry, can you share my slide?
New Pat.
Yes, I'm waiting for the technical teams a few seconds to change the. Yes, now it's appearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. In terms of supporting innovation development for Thailand electric vehicle industry, first of all, may I introduce our organization in short? Please, next slide, please. Okay. We are the National Science Technology Development Agency, or we have a nickname everyone usually call NASDA. We are and now here we are 30 years anniversary, and we have 5 technology center. These are divided by technology concerning. We have the NEC-Tech, N-Tech, M-Tech. The technology center was divided by the technology concerning, like N-Tech is energy technology, M-Tech is material and metal technology, and NEC-Tech is a National Electronic and Computer Technology Center. We aim to be a partner as a key toward a knowledge society using science and technology. And more than 10 years, we are trying to research and development for EV technology with our partner. Please go to next slide. Okay, absolutely know about Thai automotive industry. We are automotive production and export. We are the first of Southeast Asia to export automotive and the parts industry product. In the near future, must slightly transfer to, in my opinion, I believe in near future the automotive technology will be slightly transferred to EV, and the far future, I think the automotive technology will be transferred to autonomous driving. Look at back for the EV, which is the environmental solution, and no matter automotive transition way, there are the flow main and core technology. There are lightweight structure that still continue development to optimization of the transition of the vehicle. And the second one is the battery pack technology. Not only conventional EV battery pack like lithium-ion battery, but also other of the energy storage or energy source of the vehicle, like maybe it's a fuel cell or something like that. And the third one is the electric device. Electric device like a motor and drive that we call drivetrain, and motor controller, vehicle control unit like a VCU, and other high voltage electronic control component. And the last technology that maybe this is the core of the automotive technology transition, there are the connected and automated technology, which may be concerned about the advanced driving assistance system or ADAS, and driverless technology may be coming in our future, I think. And we still get the look at back for the EV. Of course, I mean battery electric vehicle or BEV. Currently, we still get the problem with using EV, which is the barrier to EV promote in many countries, not only Thailand. They are rent per charge, price of the vehicle, availability of the vehicle, and battery price, which is the more than 50% of the vehicle price, and charging system ability like a low location, charging time, and charging price. And as I mentioned, most of them are the automotive Thai automotive industry. Most of them are the automotive part industry, and they positioning as a potential supplier to the OEM or car maker that come from the other country. I suggest some information. Please go to next slide. I suggest some information that come from the interview of the representative of Thai automotive part industry. The question of the interview is if you need to challenge move to EV automotive part production, what do you need or what do you see as the barrier? The results show that the number one of the Thai automotive industry need is the concern about the human resource, which they are since labor until engineer that they need. And the second one is the market or demand of them, which may be demand of the first demand is like a demand of from the OEM or car maker, and the secondary demand is from the user or consumer EV. And the third and the fourth one is the research and development and material that at the currently the Thai automotive part industry still import the most of material to produce or to process the product, like steel. Steel is the main material, raw material for the Thai industry for the conventional vehicle production. But this still may be a problem for the problem either the conventional industry and or next generation industry like lithium-ion battery cell as well, and other they are support from the government. And like this, I will skip another one and go to next slide.
Okay, Mr. Sorovet, if you can hold on for a little while, as you were mentioning, there are a couple of good, rich insights, and I want to take the opportunity, and then we'll circle back again with you to hear from some of the other speakers' response to some of these things. if you don't mind. Okay, so I'm going to call upon Mr. Krishna. And Mr. Krishna, you see some of these things from the survey, for example, and I know you have the voices of the EV industry players. What are some of your thoughts in terms of their response to what you've heard from FOCA in terms of the trends in which people are moving with traceability and so on and so forth, and what Mr. Sorobet was mentioning around, human development or be it the demand that's not driving enough of that provision of supply. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I would like to support what Mr. Vogel was saying about the component supplier. When it comes to the electric vehicle, of course, we're talking about the transformation from the ICE automotive production and moving forward to the electric vehicle components. And I think this is one of the main issues and one of the main topics that our government is thinking very hard, because we have been quite, let's say, a very strong base for the automotive production in the last many years. And we have even been ranked even number 11 in 2019 in terms of the automotive vehicle production here in Thailand. And now to overcome that, let's say, a solid foundation on the ICE technologies and moving next phase to the electric vehicle, it is not an easy task for the, from anyone from the first tier, second tier, third tier supplier who used to, produce the component for the engine, and now they have to basically try to come up with the battery, electric motors, and other key components for the electric vehicle. And therefore, this is the, let's say, it is in the period where we have a lot of discussion with the government, also with the automotive club, also with the parts component supplier, and trying to steer everyone to understand that it is a big value chain which is coming up in the future. The battery value chain is huge, in the world. It will be great demand everywhere, and Thailand would not want to miss out on this kind of opportunity. And therefore, we really have to move forward and trying not to be the last man, let's say, the last man standing in ICE. This is what the term that the government was always saying, and we don't want to face ourselves in that situation. So it means that we need to really think hard what kind of the measurement and support scheme that the government could offer for the industry to move forward. I know that in the past many years, the BOI has already offered a lot of the privilege for the BEV manufacturer to set up the assembly of the plant here in Thailand. And most of the car manufacturers already submit the application since 2018. But since then, and until today, we have not have the concrete, let's say, the plan of production yet from those who submit the application. So I think it is the wait and see for the car manufacturer to see if there is a growing demand for the BEV, and going to see if there will be any incentive for the end user that would support their business case to come up with the supply and the production. So I think this is the period where we would really have to encourage the government to look ahead into the future, trying to not to get too much stuck with the current situation of the being in the top 10 of the automotive production in the world, and trying not to lose that, because we have to move forward, and the trend and the technology is changing so fast. This is my thought on the overall industry that we are facing right now.
No, thank you so much. And I think to your point, just to add some facts for speakers out there who may not be so familiar with Thailand, and I know many of you might be potentially thinking of investing in Thailand, for example. I thought I'll share some facts with you. And of course, if you're a local player, as you listen to this, it might be an opportunity for you to think, where can I pivot into? I think as you hear the speaker speak. So firstly, I think for the bigger audience, Thailand has always been named the Detroit of Asia. And it has the largest manufacturing capability in Southeast Asia. Just FYI for you all. And obviously you have brands from the Japanese brands through to the German marques like Mercedes and BMW. And I know, Krishna, you are part of that BMW group. So there you have it right in front of you all. And then I think for the local players as well, as you listen to this, there are pieces which I would try to get the speakers to share with you, and that's around And I want to steal this from Fokker a little bit. He says the EV, as much as it is EV, is also an IoT device. Right. And what I'm going to do now is I am not going to call a specific person, but I'm going to open it to the floor to hear your thoughts, whether is it, Sorowet or Fokker or Krishna, around how that is something of an opportunity, or it may not be, or it's too early in regard to the car as an IoT device.
Sorry.
Open the floor. Anybody could jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my thesis is that we will remember Elon Musk not so much for bringing up the electric vehicle. Actually, the EV was there already 20 years before him. He made it attractive. He made it cool, and actually, to convince the customer, you have to have a product which is accepted by performance, by coolness. And I mean, he removed all the buttons from the car and replaced it with one single big tablet. Yeah, how cool is that? And it seems to appeal to many of the customers. And the reason for buying a Tesla is not so much being green or something. This might be a motivation for some, but for most people, it is having the coolest car available. And of course, now we see IT dissolving into all kind of vehicle. Yeah, I see the new generations of electric vehicle from Germany or from other manufacturers. They become increasingly intelligent, and all the new technologies like highly automated and highly assisted driving is implemented mainly in the EV. It's somehow connected to the EV. Yeah. Although you have the same devices also in combustion engine cars, of course, but it is kind of old school already to talk about combustion engines. And I think Mr. Krista was totally right. Thailand has to catch up a little bit. Yeah, we fought these fights which you have here in Thailand now. We fought in Germany 10 years ago, and believe me, the reluctance of the German car makers was big, was huge. Yeah, nobody wanted to go electric, and now we have 1 million cars on the road, and believe me, the next million will not take 10 years. This will be maybe 1 or 2 years. So it's accepted by the customer. I mean, we have the charging infrastructure rollout in Europe, and we have programs, and we have some incentives. Yeah, but the incentives are not so large. Yeah, so it is helps a little bit. But it is not the main reason why the people buy an electric car, to be honest.
Okay, no, thank you for that. And Sorowet, as a lead-in from that point, you were sharing a lot about battery technology. And I want to use an example of China. And you know, China has been accelerating their EV adoption to the point where you hear of this company called NIO, N-I-O, and they call that the Tesla of China, right? And what was so innovative about that company is that instead of having charging stations, they said, why don't you do a battery swap with me? And what they've done is they've created battery swap stations. And I think it was about half a year back, a petrol giant, obviously it's a local player. I can't recall whether it was China National Oil or was it Sino Petroleum, where the chairman went together with the founder of NIO to figure out if he could co-locate battery swapping stations beside his petrol pumps. So why am I bringing this story up? And I know you're right smack in the midst of innovation. Any thoughts around how that whole charging infrastructure innovation would look like, given that I know, Krishna, you mentioned there's like 2,100 charging sockets nationwide. Will you continue to see those things go that route, or you think there's going to be a slightly different way of I want to call it refueling energy, so to speak? Yeah, and Sorowet or Krishna, do jump in. Yeah.
Okay, good question. I think we have seen quite a number of possibility out there in terms of the technologies. Like take for example the wireless charging, which is something that we have seen the real example, and it is being offered by some of the brands. But the point is that with the wireless chargers, when you put the car on top of the magnetic fields and to get the energy, it is the amount of the energy loss in transition between the wireless to the car that cause quite a bit of the hassle for this technology at the moment. So I wouldn't rule it out that we will not see it. I believe that it is in the early phase where we see the possibility that the wireless charger will come in, and if it comes in, of course, then you don't have to worry about the type of the socket standard, which type, whether it's type 1 or type 2 or CHAdeMO, that would reduce a lot of the hassle out there. And another thing that I think would be quite highly possible for the motorcycle is the battery swapping. We see that a lot in Thailand already, and a lot in Taiwan, in Japan. I think it's quite practical because basically when you buy the electric scooter or the motorcycle, you don't have to buy the battery. So it reduces your cost. So the potential business case is that you would subscribe to the battery charging station, and then you can get your new battery every time you want to get a new one, and to replace it as many times as you want. And I think in Thailand, we have already launched the model for the motorcycle taxi, and it has proven to be quite profitable for the motorcycle taxi because it reduces the cost, and they can swap the battery as many times as they want. So all in all, I think this is some of the things that we would expect to see. In the interim period, of course, we still see the growing number of the charging station and more towards the DC quick charger, because in the past many years, we talk about the 50 kilowatt quick charger, right? But now we are talking about the ultra fast charge, like, up to, let's say, 350 kilowatt or more. And I know that there are some of the authorized retailer, like Porsche, for example, who already installed the ultra fast charge at their one of the showroom. So this is something that I think would go up more and more in the public charging station in the future.
Thank you for that, Krishna. And Saurabh, would you like to chime in to add? I know you definitely, your hands and legs and all that are all in that innovation space. So yeah, it would be good to hear from you. Huh?
I think as I mentioned, for the EV promotion, we still have the problem with the charging provider. I mean the charging provider. Of course, at the currently in the world, we have a lot of the charging technology, like that many said about battery swapping, wireless charging, ultra fast charge, and a lot of the charging technology. But I think that if we develop or use the advanced technology of charging, we still have the effect to the vehicle. Like if we use the high power charge of the charger, it may be effect to the effect to the health of the lithium-ion battery that included in the electric vehicle. But I think the way to manage the using or manage the charging solution may be the, like in terms of the fleet. I mean in terms of the fleet first, the fleet is we need to fleet management to manage the service schedule, to manage the charging schedule with the optimization way. And for the consumer, I mean the passenger car, I think user should be learn and use new behavior for driving. If we need to use EV, if they need to use EV, they need and they necessary to know about the limitation of the technology. They need to know limitation of the production at the currently. So they, if they know about the behavior, know about the limitation of the technology, they will learn and they will change their behavior to use EV with the feel like happy when they use the EV.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about how the government is supporting. And I know there were some talks earlier with the Triple Helix, initiative. I know there's this Thailand Plus that was, publicly mentioned in 2019, where you get a lot of tax incentive. Do you see that being something that's applicable to the industry that you all are in as we speak? Or is that still, things in the works? Because I think that would definitely attract many to move towards that direction. Yeah. Yeah, it could be, any of the speakers, if you happen to be aware of what that means to the EV industry and battery technology in that.
I think the charging infrastructure is key. And my recommendation is not to play around with too many charging options. At this very moment, the connective charging system is the most proven one, and it's the most available one, and everybody can apply it into his house. Yeah, and all those things with swapping. This is for niche markets, yes, taxis maybe, or something. May work out, but this is not the mass market. So don't focus too much on that. Yeah, we saw companies failing with this, like Better Place. We see no big preparedness of the car industry to agree on a one design battery. Yeah, I mean, everybody is proud of his battery and his performance of his battery, and he don't want to share or want to be, let's say, squeezed into a box which is compliant with all the cars on the road. Maybe we see this in the very future, but right now every car maker has its own battery system, and it's highly competitive. Yeah, and this is good because we see improvement through competition here. Yeah, who has the best battery, who has the safest battery, who has the best performing battery. We are testing this, by the way, here in Thailand. So these are the criteria, and don't play around too much with these nice and interesting things like WPT, but it will be not a mainstream anytime soon. And at this moment, we need to, especially for Thailand, we need to get, let's say, the first level. So we need to roll out a certain basic infrastructure that the people see it, that it gets some visibility on the street, in the shopping center, in any places. And you need maybe some, what was very successful in Germany was a drive and ride events, yeah, where people can just come up and drive the car some circles on the space of a shopping center or so, to get this wow feeling sitting in the electric car. Yeah, this is fun. This is great. The acceleration is great. It is totally silent, and I mean, silence and air quality are two emerging problems of Bangkok, especially. So this would really contribute to improvement, and you have to experience it yourself. It's not, you can listen to 100 lectures and see many Tesla videos or BMW videos. This will not convince you at the day. But sitting in an EV, trying it, driving it, you are convinced after 1 minute. Yeah. This kind of things need to be implemented in Thailand. But as I said, also for myself, yeah, I just relocated to Thailand. So my decision here, having a combustion engine car or having an electric car, went into the middle, yeah, having a plug-in hybrid, because I not trust the system yet. But this need to change, because the plug-in hybrid is no solution I see on the long run. This is a bridging technology. Yeah, because you have both systems, it makes it unnecessarily expensive, and at the end of the day, we want to go emission-free, yeah, in globally and locally. And there, the EV is the solution. And get the people in the car, let them drive, provide some incentives, but focus first on the infrastructure. Yeah, otherwise people have no trust in buying this because they may get stranded.
No, interesting. And I just one point from a tourist standpoint, Bangkok without the noise is not Bangkok, huh?
Yeah, maybe without the smell, yeah.
Yeah.
Diesel smell.
No, I actually enjoy going to especially Yawarat. I mean, I'm just taking you guys a bit, kind of like add a bit of flavor to the whole thing, right? But Yawarat has been one of the best places even until today. It's a pity I can't go, but I was just there about a year and a half back, so I'm missing it, huh?
But they for Yawarat, they implemented last year some on Sundays, no cars. And believe me, it was even better. So no cars in your Overarching and no cars in the side roads. So you could sit on the street, having street food there, very undisturbed. Perfect.
Brilliant.
You not miss the car, believe me.
Christian, I'm going to ask a question because this is quite unique to a few countries only. And the tuk-tuk, how is that, in the works as far as this e-mobility is concerned, or maybe the quantity is too small? I mean, some thoughts. I thought it would be quite an interesting fun fact for the audience.
Actually, I like to, when Mr. Walker was talking about the electric vehicle, he spoke from his passion. You can tell that exactly.
Yes.
And I agree totally with that, because at any time that you would put yourself behind the wheel of the electric vehicle, you would notice the difference from what you have driven in the past decades. The acceleration is great, and agility of the vehicle, is superb. And of course, you feel, every time that you are on the road, that you don't produce any emission out there, you don't produce any pollution, to the air that you breathe. So, and that in Thailand, we always face the problem of the PM 2.5 pollution every winter. So we always come up and talk about it only in the winter time. And then in the summertime, we stop talking about it, and there's no change. So it is like a once a year talk of the town topic, right? But I think for most of us, when we look into the sustainable solution of the Bangkok and in big city like Chiang Mai, we will always face this problem if we don't change to electric vehicle. And this is why we try to support as much as we can to move forward with the electric vehicle and electric, let's say, awareness of people in the market. Because currently, if we put the price of the electric vehicle in comparison to the normal combustion engine, and without incentive to the buyer, most people would say, well, the range is limited, the infrastructure is not yet ready, and I'm not quite sure if the resale value would be good, and therefore they go, back to the ICE cars once again. And therefore, this kind of, let's say, thinking which should change. We need to really, put in the support scheme for people to be aware that what they are driving would be exactly environmental friendly, and they would basically get the benefit package out of it. And of course, when talking about the resale value of the electric vehicle, it is the question of demand and supply. Currently, if you have electric vehicle and you want to sell it in the after market, in the used car market, the price is very good because there's no supply. And this is what I been talking to the used car association, and they are confirmed that the used car of the electric vehicle right now is so good, even better than ICE car. So, and this kind of thing, it is a task of EVAC to communicate to public and try to get them aware of the coming phases, the technology that will make their life even better. And of course, in the same time, we like to encourage the government to support with the infrastructure and the incentive for the buyer as well.
No, actually so true, because if you look at how China has escalated its EV adoption was because of the government's support and incentive, including getting, for example, a national petroleum company to come side by side with an EV car manufacturer to see how do you leverage the network of petrol pumps, and beside it put a battery swap station. And things like this definitely helps the adoption. And of course, being a very single party rule, a lot of things get decided very fast, very quickly. And so they definitely have that as an advantage. Yeah. Okay, very good. I am sensitive that we've got 3 minutes left, and probably we're standing between lunch and the audience. So I would want to ask each of you, if you have one parting shot, and you realize I didn't focus so much on I 4.0 because that was talked about in the prior forum earlier on. But if there's one parting shot that each of you want to leave as an advice for the audience, be it them being a foreign direct investor or them being within the ICE automotive value chain, if there's one advice I would ask you all. I'll start off with you, Sorowet. What would you want the audience to walk away with?
I think in the next 5 years in Thailand, maybe the demand of the EV will be required on the niche market. I still believe niche market like electric bus, electric light vehicle like a 2-wheel or 3-wheel motorcycle or 3-wheel or tuk-tuk that you said, and the other demand that I believe maybe occur in Thailand in next 5 years on niche market is a electric boat. Thailand, we have a lot of river, a lot of area to use the boat. We get the opportunity to develop the electric vehicle like an electric boat for use any objective. And the last one that I may suggest some point of the EV user that may be required from the product producer. I think most, especially with Thai people, they require the safety, they require the reliability of the electric vehicle. So may I suggest some service of our organization, like a testing center. We can test the lithium-ion battery cell. We can test the lithium-ion battery pack. We can test the electric mobility capability for the electronic part, especially with EV part, and we can test the whole vehicle to the electromagnetic capability. This is my suggestion.
Okay, no, thank you for that, Sorawet. Krishna, your parting words.
Yes, I would like to take the word of the President Joe Biden when he said that the future is electric, right? And there's no turning back. I think this statement is clear, and it is actually very true to the world, and this also applies to Thailand as well. So if you are investing in the stock market, of course, if you want to invest in the battery companies or the semiconductor company, of course, the chance that you make money is quite high in the coming period. And the same, when you look at your own industry, if you are making the component supplier for the ICE, I believe it's time that we try to, or you should try to transform yourself to the ICE, the BEV component supplier. The battery value chain will be very high, and these related components of the electric vehicle will be very high. So don't miss out on it, and try to basically try to transform what you are doing to meet with the future demand.
Thank you. And Volker, take us home.
Yeah, one more word to China, because the success of China is also triggered by the fact that in many regions it was impossible for the people to buy a combustion engine.
Right.
So
right.
It was kind of half voluntary that the people bought it, but once they had it, they were quite happy with it. Yeah. So there at some point in time, we have to increase the cost for the gasoline, or we have to think about the CO2 taxation scheme, which every country in the world is thinking about, to make it less attractive to buy gasoline cars and to make it more attractive to buy EV. I think a little bit back to 4.0. I mean, we have the transportation transition, yeah, from combustion to electric, but at the same time, of course, we have to manage the energy transition. The energy must be produced, and in Thailand, this is so. Yeah, it's half clean, half not so clean, and we have to curb also the global emissions. So that means the path to renewable energies should be given at the same time as the introduction of EV is growing. And there you need a lot of information, like renewable energies are more fluctuant, like conventional energy sources. So there's a business model behind. So if your car can negotiate with the grid about, now is the price very cheap for electricity, get it into my battery, or maybe even from vehicle to grid, yeah, save the energy back into the grid, because there's a very high price right now in the grid. You can make money out of it. This is kind of this is a total smart system, and energy and transport will get much closer together than they are today. And for this, let's say, to manage all the billing and authentication things, we need Industry 4.0. Yeah, this is maybe the information you need in this context. But it's not only to look into cars. Yeah, the EV is a system. And renewable energies at the end of the day is also a system, because it is distributed energy. You don't have a big power plant, you have hundreds of small power plants contributing to the grid. Yeah, and this transition have to go in parallel with the EV introduction.
Absolutely. I think to your point, a lot of these things are a integration of multiple facets, whether I think you heard even in the previous forum, where there's the infrastructure, there's the government support, there is the human capital that Sorawet talked about, right? And having all these things come together, including information flow, because once you get onto this and it all comes together with I 4.0 is how do you manage that information flow for better decision making, timely and all that. So I want to personally say thank you to Krishna, Volker, and Saurabh. Good to also get to know you all in person. It's been a joy to be able to facilitate this and a privilege as well. I wish you all a safe, journey wherever you are, all right? And I'll pass you back to New Pat. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Khop kun krap.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all panelists for joining our discussions today. And also thank you to you, Glenn, for moderating the panels. It was very inspiring discussion. And I think the audience have learned a lot from your discussions.